Hello everyone, this is Ross from Retro Dream Beam. I'm an eBay seller full-time. I've been doing this with my fiance and for more than 3 years now. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So I just want to talk about just customer service in general and how I approach it. This could be helpful, like I use this for eBay or kind of anywhere. I've done this in past jobs and just like how to approach it. There's the first thing you have to think about is every situation is going to be different. So when I'm going into every situation, I was trying to think of like an analogy or something, but it's almost like I know a lot of like video game analogies, but everyone's not going to have played every video game I've played. So I'm thinking like imagine an arm wrestling match where you go into the arm wrestling match and the other person's going to be like twice your muscle or twice your size or something, right? So I picture it as a goal where or not a goal where it's a situation where you don't have leverage, right? So the person can they can defeat you, right? They can bring your arm all the way down and then you lose, but because they're twice the strength, they have all the leverage, you won't be able to push them all the way down. Like you won't win. It's not a thing you're going into that you're going to be winning. It's a situation that you're trying to solve. Like you are going in as the loser because you're going into this where you're going to be always losing. You have to try to, how far are you going to let the person put your arm? Are you going to stand hold in the middle? You never want to add aggression or words onto it because you're going to lose that situation. Like I said, the customer usually has all of the leverage, whether that is that you get in trouble with your boss, or you get a negative feedback, like for us in eBay, or you lose the money, right? So like your goal is to solve the customer's issue. So you want to acknowledge what the problem is. So you have to sit back, remove your emotion from it. It's a pretty hard thing to do. And like I said, every situation is going to be unique with it. So you just have to go in expecting a loss. You're not trying to like win this type of scenario. So with that in mind, you have to identify like what is the person mad at? What's their end goal? You're trying to figure out this, and you'll still have emotions, right? Like you're still a person, but you just kind of have to remove it for the moment being, and then trying to really figure out, you're like trying to get in their mind, not to do like mind tricks on them, but you're trying to be in their mind. You're trying to understand what they're trying to get at. And that doesn't mean every customer has like a resolution that you want. Sometimes they might just want to blow off steam. That happens a lot, where they just want to use it as a punching bag. That's actually a pretty good scenario, because that's kind of like one of those things where time will heal the wound. You can also, later on, you'll be upset, you can go take a walk afterwards, but then the issue might be solved. They might not, if it's eBay, they might not want a return or something. They might not want their money back. They just wanted the acknowledgement. There's so many people where I sit back and I think about it, I'm like, I think this person just wants the acknowledgement of the issue. So I always try to find out like what problem has to be acknowledged. Let me give you an example. So let's say a customer comes in, and then they bought like or they thought like an item would work differently, like a board game or something would work differently. I don't have like a super good example. They just want to acknowledge that you thought of that, right? So I try to avoid certain words when I'm talking to people during customer service. I really try to avoid you. So I don't want to say like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you are experiencing this. I always try to center the conversation around me or the solution. And that's a very, very hard thing to do, because like there are a lot of times where I'm just like typing stuff and I'm like, no, that's going to come off wrong to them. Even if I'm being honest, or even if I'm trying to get to like a correct solution, I'll just read it out loud. You got to read it out loud and be like, no, you're trying to avoid any accusations. It really does help. So I'm always like deleting stuff that's basically pinning the word you, even if it sounds nice to you. I'll say something like, let's say someone has an issue on eBay. They go, I didn't realize that this miniature was broken and I needed to reglue it. I will usually say something like, oh, hey, I did my best with the titles. I will try to do better in the future. Let me know if there's anything I could have done to have portrayed this better. Let me know if there was any like pictures I missed out, any descriptions I want to do better. You see how I'm framing it? Technically, I didn't do anything wrong, right? The person didn't see that in my title I said damaged, in my description it says damaged, but you still technically, I do want to know what was the issue, because that also does help me. Even if I think it's obvious as the seller on eBay, it's not obvious to the other person. Like this is something that is mutually beneficial to figure out what was in their mind. So I try to think in their minds, and in this particular case, this has happened before at the Broken Miniature. I picture someone, they got off work late, they had a bad day, they weren't in the right mindset, they were watching TV, maybe someone was yelling at them, maybe there was like music in the background, they were scrolling through eBay, they just maybe read a couple words in the title, they're like, oh, this is the sword barbarian miniature. Okay, cool. It's $8. They sent me an offer. Accept it, purchase it, and then they get the tracking notification. They didn't really go into the listing. You can't assume everyone's going to go into everything. So that's, in my mind, probably what happens with a lot of these situations. So you do want to try to figure out like how you could have circumvented this as a seller. So always focus your customer service around yourself and be honest about it, because like that it does help you, or at least it helps me to try to figure out what I can do better. It's you're never going to get a perfect situation or a job or something where you never have to deal with customer service. So like there is no ultimate ending. You're never doing the arm wrestling match where you're just putting your arm all the way down and then like you win. That's why it's not like that. So always trying to get in their mind, or try to be in their mind, and figure out where it comes from, and then that makes talking about easier. And then the next thing is to apologize in some way, shape, or form. This doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm the worst picture taker, I'm the worst descriptor, I'm the worst person with the titles. No, just say like something that acknowledges that you are understanding the situation sucks. Anytime I have to ask someone to do a return, I will always say something there like, hey, I understand it's a pain. I'm really sorry. I know it stinks to take time out of the day to ship out like an item. Once it comes back, I'll take a look at it and we'll get the whole refund. That's usually like in some way, shape, or form. And like I said, every situation is unique. Sometimes someone might be super angry where like saying less is more. You really have to just get like a vibe of the situation, and you really have to like think deeply about it while you're not getting upset or emotions. You're not trying to put blame. There's a lot of times where I'm going through the Reddit stuff, the eBay advice, where I see sellers messages and they start using the words like you, and I'm just like, oh man, just like a lot of this just strife could have been handled differently. Yeah, just the accusations is something that's going to make someone, it's almost like you're automatically like, if you're accusing the person, even if you're correct, it's not about being correct, it's about getting the solution solved, or sorry, the problem solved. It's trying to get it right there. So imagine if you're starting to tell the person like you or whatever, and you don't have the leverage, so your arm's going down, you're losing the match. You already knew you were going to lose. You already knew you can't go all the way. You can't just like message a person like, yeah, go take a hike, I'm going to keep your money on eBay, and you can't do a return because you didn't read the description. Good luck, dude. Like, you can't do that. You can't actually take your arm and put the leverage all the way down on them. That's just not a situation. You can go ahead after the situation by yourself. You can go take a walk and be upset in your head and, whatever, have fun with it in your head. But when you're actually doing it and talking to the person, just push that to the side for the moment. Like I said, you're going to have little to no leverage. Also, at the end of a lot of customer service situations, like, you're not going to get the result you always want, and the person might still be mad. You might still get the negative feedback. You're still going to, it's just not always going to work out. It's always just about trying and reiterating things that work and don't work. And it's weird because it's one of those things where because every situation is unique, it's like you can and can't use your experience in the next one. I just try to figure out the things that are automatic things that like almost always fail. So like I'm talking about, like blaming the customer and just trying to go all in against them. That usually, in my experience, is a fail. So try to get rid of the things that fail and try to refine the things that are working. The words that you're using is very important. Take it serious. Don't do this don't like apologize or try to problem solve just to apologize or problem solve. Like, take it serious. Like, step back in your head, like step out of the situation and really try to improve on yourself in these situations. Every little word you can say can change the whole outcome. It can change the mood. It's like, even though you don't have the leverage, you have the power, you have the control, and you can quickly lose that. And you can also quickly stay firm in some situations. there's a lot of times like I'll get my message and I'll be nervous to send it. I've done so much customer service. I basically have like 20 years worth of customer service in some way, shape, or form, from in-person customer service to through online and messaging and stuff. And every time there's a lot of times I send the message, like it'll be like what I think will work, and then it's almost like I duck under the covers or under the table, and then I'm like waiting for the response, and the response comes in, and I look at it, I'm like, oh wow, it worked. It worked. There's a lot of times where like it just works. So just being honest, trying to actually figure out the situation, not blaming the person. It really does work. It goes a long way. So like I said, there's some people that they just want to slam you with a bunch of insults, and as long as you go like, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry, I can do a return, refund, we can talk about this, what can I approve? And then they're just like, oh no, it's good, man, we're good, we're good. I just just want to let you know. And it's like, okay, cool. And then after they let you know, be serious with that. So there's a lot of times where there was a couple of times where something was, the person didn't realize the miniature scale was the scale they wanted. That's important for people playing miniature games. And I actually changed about like a few months ago my picture order. No one told me it. I just kept thinking about it. I was like, man, I kept having this issue where people would be like, oh, I wanted this one on a 32 scale and it's one on a 72 scale, or I wanted like 16 millimeter. This one's 4 millimeter. So I always included pictures of measurements at the end of all my pictures for my listing. But then I sat back and I thought, why are those pictures at the end of my listings? They should actually be at the first one should be the item, and then I made the second one actually my measurement. I don't know if this has actually fixed anything, but I just really thought about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, because like originally in my head I thought like that kind of picture is ugly, but that doesn't make sense. It was just I don't know why I had it at the end, right? I wanted to like show good pictures of the item from all angles, but now I just do first picture. Let's say if it's miniature, I'll do the miniature, second picture, and third picture or fourth picture will be the measurements of like, the length, the width, and the height, because that's important for these people that play the war games, or they're going to make dioramas or something, or little villages or whatever they're going to work on. Like they need to kind of know the scale. So they need to know what the item is for first picture, and then the measurement. And this was because I was having a lot of issues, not a lot, but enough issues where I was like, where is this coming from? Like this, because I would have it in the title, I would technically have it in the pictures in the back end, and I would have it in the description. And talking to these people over and over again, I would ask them, and I would take the blame and be like, oh hey, like what could I have done better? And they're like, I don't know, I guess technically you had, they were always like, you technically had it in the pictures, and none of them told me like, hey, maybe they should have been up front. So I just kind of had to fill in the blanks there for that particular improvement. So when people give you feedback, whether you like it or not, take it serious. You might have, what is it? You might have stuff set in stone in your head, but still take it serious. Sometimes you'll get feedback and I'll still take it serious, but it might be like for 30 seconds, I'll take it serious. I'll be like, okay, do I need to change like what that person like lectured me on? I'll be like, no, I don't need to change that. Like, I think that person was just upset or something. So you have to make a lot of judgment calls. If you like, how serious is it going to result in some action? But always tell someone that you're going to take action, because you are going to think about it, and then you might actually, it might produce something. And if someone helps you with that, let them know like, hey, I'm actually going to change. I told a couple people when I had the measurement issue with the pictures, I said, thank you for that. I'm actually going to start putting my pictures of the measurements a couple pictures in instead of the end, so I understand like why you didn't see it, like my bad. And these people usually like, they're like, oh no, it's my bad. And it's like, it's good, whatever, that they're happy. And like I said, you're not trying to put the blame on them. They're the customer. I think the concept of the customer is always right isn't, well, one, people misinterpret it, but even if you use the misinterpretation of it, that's not what your job is. Good customer service isn't just kind of what is it, like just giving the customer everything that they want. That's also very bad practice, because you are going to get in a situation where that won't cover the issue. For online or eBay, that's a lot. That will result in, for example, let's just say like someone goes like, hey, I'm missing a puzzle piece for this puzzle. Boom, you send them a refund. You don't even talk to them. You're now not like progressing your skill set. You're just kind of, you're training this customer that you didn't want to talk. You were just like, oh, take the money, go. And some people like might be upset. They might have been like, hey, did you have the puzzle piece? You probably didn't, but you never know. They might have wanted to actually talk to you about it. I've seen people who will, not on our eBay, but I'll look at other people's feedback sometimes. They'll leave someone a negative feedback and they'll be like, they gave me a refund. They didn't even talk to me about it. I didn't even want a refund. So like the that's what I mean by like the customer is always right. And if you take that too literal, you are going to cause more problems for yourself in the long run, or at least in my opinion. You really need to, it's not fun. Like this isn't a fun thing. Customer service isn't fun. It's usually uncomfortable. I don't have fun with it, but I definitely see it as like a really in-depth puzzle, like a mind puzzle to solve, or you never even get to like a real solution because like you never fully know exactly how another situation is going to happen. It might be same issue, same item, different person, you in a different mood, they're in a different mood. So now you don't know how it's going to be handled. So I kind of, I don't find it fun, but I find it intriguing to when you actually keep what am I trying to say? Like I find it intriguing of a problem to try to go through. It's almost like a journey. Customer service is, it's not about like a beginning and an end. It's just like the journey of the communication between two people or two parties, and it's usually messy on the inside. It's not like a straight line from one point to the other, and almost the beginning and almost the end doesn't matter for different people, if that makes sense. It's a weird thing. It's a really weird thing to try to explain to people. I always struggle with it. I have like millions and millions of different branching paths of like, if someone starts the conversation with something and what's the item, and is this eBay or is this my past jobs, like what's the starting point, and then what's my next thing to do, how do I imagine their tone, are they upset, are they angry, if I can't tell, I got to be careful, you have to tread carefully, what words am I going to use, uh, when I read something out loud, is that the proper thing to say? I think reading the stuff out loud for a lot of people would help, because like I said, I'll go through like the Reddit stuff, and then sometimes it'll just be like, I'll read it out loud and be like, ooh, that sounds so, that just this is not going to go well. The journey, just there's a crash on the journey, crash going down, and then that's usually what happens, right? Yeah, it's really I have a lot of good luck with being honest, and it's so, I don't know why, it's just, it'll be so hard. Let's say if okay, there was a Pokemon poster. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't have a Pokemon. There was a poster, and in storage, it got like a little rip. And when I got there to grab the item, I picked it up. I saw the little rip, and I'm like, oh, I have to send this picture to this person. So I sent them 5 pictures, and I said like, hey, I did not store this properly. I'm gonna have to like actually figure out my storage for this stuff in the future, which I did handle at that time or after the problem. Do you still want this item? And then I'm waiting like nervously for the person's response, because who knows what they're going to say. And someone was like, oh yeah, I'm going to frame it. That's on the edge. It's going to be framed. No big deal. Please send it. So I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, it's kind of like stuff like that, where just straight up just being honest upfront as quick as possible is usually a good beginning point, but that doesn't always work. You might get someone that gets pretty upset. So you never really know. It's always about waiting and seeing what happens, and then going from there. It's like a constant. You're constantly reiterating on every word choice you're using, every introduction you're starting. Some good words I like to say are like hello, or hi, or I understand, or I did this, or I did not. You see how I'm focusing the conversation around me, and it probably is an issue with me. And I guess that's another thing I usually do. I think Aneta gets a little frustrated with this sometimes, but I always, even when it's clear from an outside party that it was the customer's fault, I really do take it serious. I'm like, what could I have actually done better? Because there must have been something wrong, back to like the miniature picture order, or back to like the ripped poster or something, or even back to something like an incomplete board game and the person didn't see the incomplete title, me describing the description. It was, I take it serious. I think I role play like, hey, what did I actually mess up? Even if it's obvious that it's not me, I still like to keep it in that frame. If you keep it in framed within yourself, there's not much that like, you're never going to take your leverage, and you're never going to start putting your arm towards them. If you focus on yourself, you can always stay up straight right here at the starting point. Like I said, imagine someone's like twice your hand size or muscle or strength. You're the best place you can be is right here in the middle. Trying to be aggressive is just it's just gonna be issues, many issues. Also, if you do get into a situation with customer service where stuff goes off the rails, you can still kind of gather it back. There's plenty of times where, like I said, like someone just like to vent out and then they're over it, or some time passes by, therefore they're not angry anymore, and you can still redeem it. I think it's a lot harder at that point, but you never know. You never know if you don't try, so you got to just keep trying different things. You also have to know when to, I guess, call it the quits. There are going to be a handful of situations where no matter what you say or do, your arm's all the way down here. They're trying to take you out. It's like 1, 2, 3 arm match. Boom. They're trying to like bring you all the way down. They're trying to defeat you. And as long as you don't participate, you have to get like a feeling for when to call it a quits. For example, on eBay has seller protections, terms of service. At some point, you can go and call the customer service, or there's contentions on issues and stuff, or like returns. There are like buttons on your end where you can click, and if like the talking between you and the customer didn't get somewhere, and they're like super aggressive or just constantly angry, or not even like listening, you get like feel them not listening to you or not even trying to talk it through. You can stay strong not stay strong, but you can then call it the quits and kind of give up on the situation, but still introspect yourself about what you could have done in the situation, or at least with the problem. Like, take the problem serious, maybe not the delivery of the person's message, but still think about the actual, like, whatever they were actually mad at. Usually when someone's mad or upset, there's a thing there. It might not be reasonable, it might not make full sense to you, but there is an actual intangible thing there that has to be thought about, at least, or at least that's how I think about it. So yeah, you have to figure out when to call it to quits. You just have to call it to quits. That doesn't mean like calling it too short. Sometimes that is the correct call, to just like, you can usually just tell. Sometimes let a little bit of time go by. Like eBay, you get the benefit of there are timed like issues or something. Like if someone has an item that's they have an issue with, and if they put up like a request for eBay, usually eBay will say like, oh, you got 4 days, so maybe you have time to answer this person in an hour or two. Maybe they're calmed down at that point. So you have to make calls like that all the time. Sometimes a lot of people like to be addressed right away, so like you never know. If you address right away, that might work. If you wait an hour or two, that might not work. So you have to like read the tone, but it's also hard to read tone through like messages and stuff. So it's like you're doing this like really weird arm wrestling dance, or that's like the best analogy I can think of before I started filming. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about for customer service is have like conviction or like confidence in what you're saying and doing in all these situations. Don't be halving all this stuff. Don't be like, oh, you kind of did this issue, but I did this, so I'm sorry. But are you going to apologize to me? No, have straight up conviction, straight up confidence in the situation, or trying to solve the situation. You have to stay headstrong. People will respect that. Not always, but it is a pretty respectable thing. Like that usually comes across in messages. It shows that you're trying to figure out the situation. You're trying to do the arm wrestling match. You're letting them know that you're not trying to over leverage yourself, that they have the leverage, and that you're just trying to actually solve, like try to always reword everything towards the issue at hand that I was talking about. Try to keep directing it there. It's a hard thing to do, but yeah, if like an item is broken, or if someone wants like a return, just keep talking about that. Don't be talking about the feelings or about how you're dumb, or a bad priced item. You can that's another thing. You can almost ignore stuff that doesn't help the situation, or just like only hurts it. This is kind of hard without having an example in front of me, but like I said, let's say if the issue for someone is, okay, missing puzzle piece for your puzzle that you sold on eBay, but then they also start talking about how it was overpriced, and they also talking about how it was not shipped on time or something. Let's say that it was shipped on time, and that like the price doesn't matter at that point, because like the actual issue is the puzzle piece is missing. So you're gonna respond to that problem, because people aren't going to be, when they're upset, they're not going to be clear cut with you. They're gonna be upset, they're gonna be angry, they're gonna word vomit a bunch of stuff at you, and it's up to you to pick up the pieces, no pun intended, with the puzzle, and figure out what's missing right there, and then focus on that. Always laser focus. Like, and it's easy, or it's easy to get upset. Like, you'll be in the middle of this and be like, oh, this person's so frustrating. And when you're having a moment where you're upset doing customer service, you should immediately think in your head, okay, what's the problem? What's the actual issue? Like, refocus yourself. Just kind of like give yourself a little slap in the face, or in your head, just like, that's usually what I do when I'm getting upset. I go, okay, what's the issue? What's the issue? Stop thinking about the stuff. You can always deal with your upset, anger, emotions later on. What's the issue? What's the issue? Can we reframe it? Can we get it back here? Let's get back to the topic at hand, because that's the thing, that if that issue gets solved or dealt with, there's going to be customer service, your experience and their experience of the customers. It's essentially over at that point, and then you get to reflect on it. And there may or may not be consequences, negative feedback, positive feedback, return, no more return, partial refund. Maybe they go like, hey, I just want to let you know, be careful next time. It's not a big deal for me. I can deal with it. Yeah, there's a lot of times where people have sent messages about items, and I just like talk about it. And I always offer the olive branch of like the return. So I will like reframe it around me. I will apologize. I won't be putting accusation words out there. And then I'll say like, hey, I have on free returns. I'm making sure to say the word free, because that's what we do, because that's an example of like every word choice is important. Because I used to tell people I have returns on, and then they would get angry because they're like, well, I don't want to pay for shipping, blah, 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 blah. And I eventually realized I need to say that important word free, because we do have free returns on. So like every little word matters. It's kind of crazy. So I have free returns on. I'm sorry. I know it's a pain to go to the post office. This is probably like the best way to resolve it. Let me know what you think. Always ask some questions. Sometimes you can always ask like I said, I was saying, try to avoid the word no, but you can say stuff like, let me know what you think, or what are you thinking about this, or like keep it open-ended. You want to keep it open-ended, because then you'll sit back, you'll listen, you'll read, and you'll learn more about the situation or the person's problem. Try not to hyper focus. Don't be like, well, what exact picture was the problem for you? And while you're trying to focus on the problem, don't try to hyper focus the person into the, God, I'm saying this wrong. I'm trying to think of how to say this. So like, yes, you're always trying to reframe the question about the situation, but don't ask open-ended questions without accusations. There you go. Sorry, it's taking me a bit to get there. So, and read them, like read what these people are saying to you, and try to go from there. Like I said, every situation really is truly unique. Of course, there's going to be a lot of things, or like experience teaches you a lot of like ways that some of the stuff can go, but it's never a guarantee. There are times where I'll be like, oh, this person doesn't seem, there was someone I was talking to. This happened like, I want to say like a year ago. I was talking to them on eBay. They were like super polite. I was super polite. I asked them like to do a return. They're like, okay, we're going to do the return. And then somewhere in there, they said something like, oh yeah, I'll make sure to get this solved or something. And that was like the last thing that they said, and I didn't respond to it. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? Like, I'll make sure to get this solved or something? It was just weird. And then like an hour later, there was a negative feedback from the person. I'm like, oh wow, that was actually crazy. I was like, I've never had such a pleasant back and forth with someone about a return on an item, to then get like a slam dunk of a negative feedback. Like all of their issues came into the negative feedback, and I was like, oh wow, I guess I messed up in that one. So yeah, you never know what's going to happen with the situation. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Then there's also, hold on, sorry, running out of breath here. Then there's those situations where the person they come in like a bull. They're like charging. You feel them knocking your phone out of your hand. You hear glass shattering everywhere. It sounds like it's like a bull tantrum. Stuff's being crushed all over the place. and then you talk to them for like 30 seconds. They're like, oh no, cool, it's not a big deal, don't need a return, don't need a partial refund, I just want to let you know, like, be careful with that next time. It's like, I thought I was getting 17 feedbacks. I thought you were gonna make some other accounts, like some fake accounts, buy stuff, cancel, and then just feedback me. Like, you never really know. You truly don't. Some of the stuff is like, you look back on it and it's funny too, and it's like you go like, oh, I remember, I can't believe that happened in that situation. So yeah, some of it's just funny. Like I said, it's always about this journey of two people, two parties, and it's you never know what's in between the beginning and the end. It's nuts. All right, so I'm at the end here. I've been rambling so much about this. I hope it made sense to people. I have like it's like all in my head, all these different situations and how to deal with stuff. And if someone's like, when I do the Reddit stuff, I do like and then it will send me somewhere. I'm like, oh, this is what I would have done or what I would have said in this situation. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I do see a lot of like the bad terminology. But I would say just generic advice for customer service is acknowledge yourself what the problem is at hand, and also when you acknowledge it, try to verbally say in words to the other person that you're acknowledging it without putting any blame on them. That's another thing. Try to avoid any I don't know if this is a word, accusations towards the person, and no implications about them making a mistake. Always frame it within the problem, the issue, the acknowledged problem, or yourself. And then three, be honest about what you are saying and doing. Don't make it up just to make it up. Don't say it just because you think you need to say it. You are actually trying to solve a problem. That's what the point of the customer service is for. Keep your emotion out of it. You can literally deal with your emotion afterwards. Like, I always think about it as in a usually situations are going to be like 15 minutes or less. Maybe they might be dragged out if their messages back and forth and you have to wait for responses. But like the total time usually is like 15 minutes or less. So like you will be free of this annoyance at some point. So like deal with your emotions then. I know it sucks and it's really weird. It feels weird to do because you're human to have to be the one to get rid of the emotions, but like it really does. It makes the situation faster. The customer service situation, it really does. So yeah, do that. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else besides those. Oh, the last thing I would say to do is have some kind of reflection, introspection, or action that after everything's said or done, or at least think about it. Right? Like it doesn't mean you're gonna instantly take an angry person's word and like, oh, I need to change this for everything. But like, if you keep having a problem with something, maybe you are setting up the problem. Maybe you are like laying it up, and then people keep taking the layup, and then you got to figure out why it's happening, and really just like think about it. And every situation is unique. So yeah, do those 5 things. That's a good starting point. Yeah, anyone has any questions about customer service, go ahead, comment down below. I'll try to give like my best answer, at least what I think about it. I don't know about particular situations, or maybe I can answer about particular situations if you guys have them. All right, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to help support us. Take a look at our links down below. Have a good one.